Afternoon, Fishos. Back again for this week's fishery report. Sorry about last week, but we're back again this week. Fair few reports to get through today. There's actually been some really nice fish caught. You've probably seen our Instagram posts. We've been weighing some absolute cracking fish over the last week or two. So, like I said before, it is a good time of year to go fishing, that's for sure. Anyway, let's get into it. So inside the bay at the moment, water's starting to clear up. That dirtiness of the water is certainly dissipating, if I could say for better words. But there's heaps of bait inside the bay. I actually went for a quick fish during the week inside the bay there, hunting a few bream on the fly rod. And there's heaps of bait in the bay, heaps of white bait. With that white bait, there's been bonito, Watson's leaping bonito, and also some cracking tailor around. I caught a couple of tailor there, would have been nudging 800, 900 grams. So really nice tailor for inside the bay. And also lost a few nice tide flies to tailor. Unfortunately, when you're using 6 pound leader, they don't last long when they jump out of the water. So if you're keen on doing that, chasing a few of those pelagics around in the bay this weekend, you want to get yourself some metal lures imitating the white bait. We've got those Armour anchovies back in stock, those 5, 11 and 18 grams, and they just match the hatch perfectly for that sort of thing. So just keep an eye on the terns, those white terns inside the bay. They'll flutter along the top of the bait schools, and quite often you'll see the fish on the tide change, especially that incoming tide early in the morning, start ripping into that white bait, especially up around Middle Island, Soldiers Point there. I noticed them at the jetty at Soldiers Point as well, and also around the anchorage. So just keep an eye on. Don't bother trolling through them. You've got to cast. If you troll through them, you put them down, you'll scare the bait. So just make sure you cast in on. Turn your motor off and just drift in with the wind. You should do all right. But that early morning incoming tide is going to be the best, and likewise in the afternoon when you get that incoming tide. So good to see that sort of action. Water in the bays around about 19 degrees. As you get further up, Soldiers Point sort of backs off to 18 degrees. When we get some warmer days, it'll fluctuate 1 or 2 degrees. There are a few bream around. Struggled a little bit, but there are some nice ones around. Some sort of really nice fish in that sort of mid to high 30 centimetres. If you're bait fishing, I'd suggest fishing the oyster racks this time of year. They're fishing really well on that incoming tide. Just unweighted baits straight into those oyster racks will fish really well. Around the rock walls too, you can't beat those rock walls there at Soldiers Point this time of year for a few brimbos. Some nice flatties around at the moment. Jack Hammond got an absolute beauty. He lost his banana curse and ended up catching a flathead. Couldn't catch a marlin, but caught a really nice lizard. Caught a nice one there today around the odd 70 centimetre mark. So some really nice lizards around. And again, they're gorging themselves on that white bait. We've got that influx of white bait at the moment. So if you're using plastics, obviously looking at that natural colour working really well. And if you're using bait, well, good old gang white bait, small pilchard or a little slimy mackerel will work really well on those flatties at the moment. A couple of dewies caught during the week. I heard the Salamander Wreck had a couple of dew hanging off it. Those that are switched on are using soft vibes, whether it was Nomad or Smarky vibes, doing really well on the dewies there on the tide change. You can also live bait for them as well. Haven't been big fish, 80, 90 centimetres, but good sporting fun if you're a lure fisherman, that's for sure. So bay starting to fish again really well. We're finding that water starting to clear every day, and we lead up to the full moon, those tides will get a little bit bigger. So that's what's happening in the bay. Also, I've got a hot tip, there's a few blue swimmers around. So can you put the traps down over at Pindima Bay? There's a few blue swimmers getting around over there at the moment. On the rocks, plenty of guys spinning, live baiting, the usual spots. Now, Tom Marie's got a few landslides, a few, monkeys that are keen to climb across there through the slides. Can get over there and start fishing the front of Tomaree, but beware, it is blocked off there. But if you can get through those landslides, you can fish the front of Tomaree. Again, any of those points will hold longtail and mac tuna this time of year. You've got Fingal at Barry Park there. If the Garies are in there, the longtails and the macs will be there. You've got 1 Mile Point. Any of those points that hold bait, garfish, yellowtail and slimies, you'll find longtail and mac tuna. It seems there's a lot of mac tuna this year. There's an influx of smaller bait this year, so there's heaps of mac tuna around. Good fun, I guess, if you haven't caught a tuna before. They're a bit sporting, especially if you're using lighter line. Especially give yourself a chance. Go down to 3 or 4 kilo mono. Have a bit of fun on them. They are good fun on that light tackle stuff. So longtails and stuff around at the moment. I guess there'd be the old cobia around as well. Leading up to the full moon, it's a good time to chase coves as well. So also bread and butter species. There's been some really nice tailor caught off the rocks. Some kilo plus tailor. Like I said, they're in the bay. They're also off the ocean rocks as well. So if you're keen on metals, throwing those around, you'll catch some really nice tail of salmon as well, I should say. On the beaches have been fishing really well. You'll notice the mullet runs on now, so if you're keen on trying to catch a dewey, you can cast a few big plastics around on those tides. I reckon you're in for a chance over the next week or so on nailing a good dew. Fingle's fishing really well. Fingal looks unreal at the moment. Some really nice gutters at Fingal. Whether you're starting down at Kitty's Corner all the way up to the Spit, there's a really nice formation on that beach at the moment. Some good fish on there as well. There's been flatties, tailor, brim, and the odd whiting as well. Back down some of the other beaches, unfortunately, Samurai still can't get into. 1 Mile's been fishing okay. The formation on 1 Mile's a little bit average. Haven't heard much around Berube. Obviously, haven't heard if it's open or closed at this point in time. Maybe check with National Parks to see how you go there. There is no swell this weekend. There's bugger all swells, so the beaches should fish pretty well, I think, this weekend. Quickly off the offshore, some cracking snapper around. You would have seen we weighed an absolute beauty for Mark there, 11.5 kilos, 98 centimetres, so some really nice reds in the shallows at the moment with all that bait, slimies and things. Been some really good kings around. You would have seen Benny. He caught an absolute cracker this week, around about 12, 13 kilos, I think that fish was. He's down rigging some slimy mackerel around the front islands there. So some good kings around. I know Little Island's holding a fair few kings and the front of Fingal as well. Some nice trag on the V and the 21. So the trag have come back. The water temperature on those reefs is around about 20.5, 21 degrees. So some good fish there as well. And likewise down on Uralla Wide, there's been some trag down there in the odd dewey. So good time of year to get offshore. On the marlin scene, Calypso, I believe they caught a couple of fish last weekend, 2 stripes, and had a really nice blue on. So if you're keen on getting out on the shelf this weekend, it's probably going to be the weekend to do it. Water looks okay. Altimetry looks like it's pushing in there, especially around that 33.00 to 33.05. Looks pretty good at the moment. So see what happens this weekend. I'm sure there's a few getting out there. Anyway, big report this week. That's it. Enjoy your weekend. It's going to be a cracker. Enjoy that autumn weather. Just make sure you put the Ugg boots on in the morning.